Okay, this is me preparing to polish this section. I've got it all taped off very meticulously, so the corner, everything's taped off. Now I don't need to worry about up here because the hood will come down and cover this part right here. I'm not really worried about burning the edges of the actual plastic. If it was paint, I would have the tape actually on the edges. All I'm worried about here is any rubber gasket or the paint itself, because I'm going to be polishing with the pad like this. Anyhow, so this is part of the taping off process. That's just blue painter's tape. Not all tape is created equal, but for most of you and most of us, blue painter's tape is all that's required. I have some specialty tapes, but that's a whole nother video. Anyhow, so I'm just going to show you briefly, trying to find a good angle here, of how much pressure and what's involved with removing wet sanding or color sanding, regardless of the material you're working on. And that's where it's part of the, and this is why I think it'd be very frustrating for most people in such a rude awakening, because they don't realize what's involved with these, you know, even these fully assembled kits of sanding discs that you can attach to your drill motor. They got different grades and so forth, but unless you have the experience, it's like, oh, now how am I going to get this out? Okay, I gotta admit something here. That happened much quicker than normal. This, to me, is a misrepresentation, because normally it does not polish that quickly. Now there's two reasons it did polish as quick as it did. One of them is because I sanded it with 2000 grit. In the past, I normally have stopped at 1000, but I've been experimenting, and it's just like, okay, that's a worthy trade-off to spend an extra 5 minutes of sanding that extra level of grit and make the scratches even finer, and then that way I'm using less time behind the buffer and less product to sand or polish them away. That is uncommon. Normally it would require more, but this is where, based on experience, this is what will dictate the moment. Is you can truly custom, finesse, nuance, whatever you want to call it, every polishing moment based on the material you're working on, whether it's paint, polycarbonate, plastic. You've got all different types of grades of pads, from wool pads to foam pads to microfiber pads. You've got different speeds, you've got different pressure. You can leave it there and let it polish based on pressure and speed and how long you keep it at a specific area. So there's so many ways to finesse and nuance the moment, and that's just where experience comes in. And that's why I think if people try to do headlamp restoration with these kits, that a lot of people will be frustrated or disappointed because they don't really understand what they're signing on to. So I'm going to finish this little section, and you can watch a little bit more, and you'll notice that, like, to get into this crevice here, you know, I have to tilt the buffer certain ways. Now with plastic polishing, as in this, I don't have to worry about swirl marks anywhere near I would if it was black paint. It's kind of like gel coat. It's just a lot more forgiving. This material is not as forgiving as gel coat, but this is far more forgiving than black paint.